All right, good day, beautiful people. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Dr. Coach Show. I am Dr. Coach Danny Pueblos, and welcome to the inaugural Dr. Coach Show on YouTube. Yes, we have brought the podcast over to YouTube, and we're excited to welcome you. And we're going to have a lot of good talks with some coaches, some athletes, entertainers, and all the above. Um, so we're going to have a very special guest to start us off. We have here head coach of the OCC women's basketball team, Sammy Doucette. Hello, hello, coach. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So a little bit about Coach Sammy here. So she played at Vanguard University from 2011 to 2016. She graduated with her BA in Business Administration. She was a three, not two, not one, but three-time three-time NAIA All-American, three-time All-Conference, ninth all-time scorer in Vanguard University history. She went on to become a graduate assistant at Concordia University, which is in Irvine, California, from 2016 to 2017. She went on to then be a recruiting coordinator and an assistant coach with Hope International University. And then from there, went on to graduate Concordia University in 2018 with her master's in coaching and athletic administration. And then she continued to pursue her coaching career um, in a couple of spots, and we'll go more in detail about that in a second. But she was coaching with the Mamba Youth Sports Academy and the Mamba Sports Academy from 2017 to 2020. And then she also coached 20 from 2018 to 2019 the Costa Mesa High School girls basketball team, where she completed a very I'll let her talk about it more, but a very good rebuild while she was there. And she won league, went to the quarterfinal rounds of CIF, won the famous Battle of the Bell, and she was named Coach of the Year for the Daily Pilot Dream Team. And of course, as I mentioned, she is now currently the head coach of our OCC, your OCC, our OCC women's basketball team Pirates. So again, thank you, Coach, for coming on. I appreciate you. We've been working together for a couple of years now, and I wanted to share you with the world. So again, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. I love this stuff. And wow, what a great introduction. That was amazing.
Hey, I'm just speaking truth, right? That's all I do. Like we said in the intro, buckle up, buttercups. Shit's about to get real. We're gonna have some good fun on this show. And it started with Sammy Doucette, who is nothing but fun on and off the court. So, Coach, I know about you. I want our listeners to know about you. Talk to me about your experiences, first as an athlete, growing up, and as a basketball player growing up, from when you first started picking up a ball to eventually making your way up to college.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up really loving soccer. I had never played on a soccer league or anything like that. I don't know why I loved it, to be honest with you. But I did. And then one day I got like a flyer or something like that from the Irvine Boys and Girls Club about a winter basketball league. And I, decided to join. Took some convincing from my brother. But yeah, I joined. And ever since then, I really fell in love with it. And basketball growing up was my outlet. It was my number one most consistent thing in my life. I would say also too, I mean, I had no idea that like you could get paid with your education to go to school and play basketball. I didn't know that until I want to say 2008, which is when I happened to like stumble upon Candace Parker when she was at Tennessee and ended up getting drafted that year. But I had no idea. My parents, you wouldn't know that if you knew them now, but neither one of them went to college. They weren't athletes, so it was just nothing that they had seen. So growing up, basketball it was like my love, but it was just, Boys and Girls Club leagues, NJB. I wasn't ever playing club. Played club going into my junior year of high school. And that's a whole nother experience in itself. But yeah, so, like I said, basketball was my constant. I've always loved it. Every coach I've ever had has said that, you know, you'll never find another player that loved basketball more than me. And I think that's true. And I think it's true now, even as I'm a coach. It's always been my favorite.
That's awesome. And it's so funny too how you mentioned how you got your start in soccer, because I've heard so many people, including myself, who started in soccer. Some continue to play, and then you have other people like myself who after scoring on my own goal and celebrating it, thinking I scored a goal, and I'm running around the damn field and with my hands raised, like you see in soccer now, everyone's looking at me like, you dumb MF, like you scored on your own goal. After that, I was like, I hung up my cleats forever, and I stuck to other sports. But yeah, that's awesome. So you talked about playing and then transitioning to coaching. So talk to me more about that. So like, after playing, like what motivated you to continue to be involved in basketball and eventually coach?
Yeah. So, growing up, I would say that I had a lot of good coaches. And when I say good coaches, I had good coaches who knew basketball. I had few coaches who really honed in on the relational aspect of coaching, which is the most important in my opinion.
Sure.
And, I had coaches who would play mind games and, play me an entire game, one game, and then tell me I wasn't going to play at all the next game, or tell me I was going to play a lot. So-and-so was coming to watch, and then sit me and yank me after one turnover, things like that. See me on campus and act like they didn't see me. Like that was just the way that they were,
Yeah.
And, coaches tell me that I was never going to be good enough to play college basketball, because apparently you can only play college basketball if you've been a 4-year varsity player. Anybody who goes JV has no chance, apparently. And I really didn't like that, and this is a sport that I loved. So I was a kid who absolutely loved basketball more than anybody. And I had coaches who could start to make me not like it. And that to me is a problem. And so I kind of decided when I was done playing, and, I also had coaches, like I said, I had good coaches who would instill confidence in me and things like that. And I loved that. And they kind of fueled my fire back for the love of the game. So I decided when I was done playing, I knew that I wasn't going to go play overseas. I was physically just beat after my senior year. And I knew, I want to coach. There's no reason why I shouldn't be a coach. I basically already do it, on my team. I was a redshirt 5th year, so I was basically a player coach on the floor. And I thought, hey, if I get into coaching, I might just be one less coach that isn't going to care to have a relationship with their players or play mind games with them.
Sure.
So,
and that's so important, right? I mean, I remember as an athlete and a coach, and even now, as a professional in sports psychology, I've seen it so many times where you have this athlete who is uber talented, and at one point they love the game, but it can take literally just one person, whether that person is a coach or a parent or someone else, to just kill that dream, just kill that love of the game. Because and I see this all the time in my profession now, working with younger athletes, even professionals. They talk about their childhood and adolescence growing up, of how they came so close to quitting. They came so close to because when you're growing up, you're playing the youth sports. Usually people have parents, caregivers, whomever, put them in the sports. But as soon as they get the opportunity to make their own decisions, which usually comes around high school, sometimes college, they quit, or they continue to play. They hate doing it because it's like a job to them. It's like they have to go to work, and that association that the athletes make with their sport is so vital. And this is why I tell coaches and parents, especially those of them who are coaching at the youth level and high school level, you gotta. I mean, yes, I'll be the first to tell you it needs to be you need to have structure, be competitive, all that good stuff, but you have to make it fun and you have to make it somewhat of a positive association, because if not, they're going to quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, what are your
absolutely.
thoughts on that? Have you seen that? I mean, I'm sure you probably had teammates or maybe heard other stories of where players might have grown up, with that kind of experience, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've my transportation to and from games was always a teammate. And I've sat in those car rides, I've sat in those car rides of the parents, usually is the dad, grilling my teammate, his daughter, for, maybe not getting enough shots up or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
Anything. And I'm so grateful that I've never had that. I've had a dad who basically would tell me after the worst game of my life that I did a great job, but I didn't. But yeah, I mean, I've seen it especially more so at the high school level. At the college level, you don't see a lot of parent involvement. You kind of get an idea of when your teammates, how they were raised and the level of involvement their parents have. But at the high school level, I mean, you see it all the time. Most of the time, the people who you're on JV with, most of them don't ever end up on varsity because they end up burnt out or they don't love the game anymore, whatever the case may be. There's only a few who actually end up moving on to varsity, and it's usually because of skill or it's mentality, it's not being burnt out, those types of things. So yeah, it's definitely across the board super relevant.
Absolutely. So talk to me more about that. As I mentioned in the beginning, you've had experience coaching youth. You've coached the Mambas, and so you coached the young ones, and you've also dealt with some parents, good for better, for worse, right? So talk to me about those experience at that level.
Yeah, my experience coaching youth, and I'll try to separate it from high school. Okay. So specifically coaching the Mamba Club, great experience, great people, great kids. But I would say it's unique, right? I was coaching kids from Newport Beach. So their parents were not so, like, oh, what are you doing? They were 5th and 6th grade by the time I got them. So they were a little bit less lenient. Basketball was more of a hobby for them. The challenges that we really had at that level were, just lack of consistently showing up. I worked for a great man, a genius, who wanted us practicing 5 days a week.
Sure.
And
no surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I didn't have one player who showed up 5 days a week. And, that's really hard. And granted, these parents have other kids who are playing other sports and they have to be in 2 places at once. But it's hard in the sense that when you're emphasizing something on Monday, Tuesday, and then Susie doesn't come till Wednesday, she missed what we were working on those first 2 days. And that was kind of a constant battle is, what's more important, your best friend's birthday party or basketball practice? And usually it was family dinner, birthday party, things like that. And for someone like me, who's uber competitive, uber passionate, I struggled with that a lot because, I would have liked to have gone to some birthday dinners and sleepovers and things like that. But Coach Sammy was showing up 5 days a week. Coach Sammy was at tournaments 8 hours a day, and I think I missed one tournament for a birthday in my 2.5 years there. So I don't know. That was the biggest issue there. I was really fortunate to not have a lot of parents that were, hey, why isn't so-and-so playing that much? Because again, when it comes to the commitment levels we had, most tournaments, I had 5 or 6 kids because there was usually some event going on that was more important.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I'm not sure if you've had experience like coaching, like the general, like the rec leagues, or maybe like other coaches. I wonder if there's any differences that either you've seen or heard about when comparing the regular rec leagues, like for the cities, right, and like club sports, like with the Mambas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I think that the Mambas in itself especially my teams, right, because I'm not Kobe Bryant. So when Kobe Bryant's your coach, you show up 5 days a week.
Sure.
When Sammy Doucette is your coach, you might go to a birthday party instead of practice. That's just the way it is. And that's okay. I'm okay with that, right? Because he's here, I'm here. But
Yeah.
That's a whole different ballgame. When you get it to these other club programs, these kids are showing up at the same time. They're not practicing 5 days a week. They're practicing twice a week, you know, and it's a consistent, this is the time we practice. This is the day we practice. And I've coached, like you said, rec leagues, boys and girls club. I mean, we're talking about kids who their parents are, I was a boys and girls club kid. Their parents are working, you know, 9 to 5 or 9 to 9. So they want to be at basketball practice. This is like their escape. So those kids are showing up to basketball practice.
Sure.
It's just Mamba was just a different ball game, a different beast. Really awesome experience, but just, you know, different commitment levels and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, definitely. So like, I know you're there for a few years coaching at that level, and then you went on to Costa Mesa. So talk to me about that transition and your experiences and challenges of coaching high school.
Yeah. So, you know, I was really lucky that my former teammate, Alyssa Durr, was willing to join me at Costa Mesa, and lucky because she played for Russ Davis at Vanguard, just like I did. She is a genius when it comes to basketball, and just a super sweet person that I thought that the girls could really look to. Whereas I'm a little bit more intense. I still love building relationships with my players, but I also, you know, I have expectations, and whether that's the basketball court or off the basketball court, I have expectations. So, I went into Costa Mesa High School, you know, the athletic director walked me around the gym, showed me my little storage unit of an office, which I was grateful for because I'd never had an office, but, and she basically said, you know, you don't have much to work with. Try to win a few games. It's going to take a few years for you to get your feet wet. And, you know, I, of course, was super respectful and was like, oh yeah, okay, like good to know. But in my mind, I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me. That's not going to work. And it didn't work for Alyssa either. And that's a big reason why, you know, I asked her to come be a part of it with me. From day one, I sat the girls down. I gave them essentially the same handbook that I gave our OCC team. And I said, this is who I am and this is what I expect. And I didn't use this verbiage, but basically I sent the message that if you don't like what you see, there's the door. And I was very fortunate to have a group of girls that, you know, had been not fortunate that they had been done wrong in the past by coaches, but fortunate that because they had been done wrong, they were like, all right, yeah, we got a new coach. She seems serious. Let's do this. You know, they were so ready. And, you know, some days it was hard. Some days they were, whoa, like this is the challenge we have today. Wow, this coach is intense. Some days I sent them home. You know, I didn't like what I saw. We weren't getting things done. I said, go home. You don't want to be here. But you know, at the end of the day, they would come back and they'd be ready to go. They'd be motivated. And it was a really great year and a lot of challenges as far as just the challenge of having a really, really intense preseason. You know, I wasn't around to make the schedule because I was hired pretty late. Sure. And I saw that we were playing Santa Margarita, Trabuco Hills, who at the time had like one of the best point guards in the county, and El Toro. And yeah, it was one of those things where it was like, we really had to keep these girls like motivated because we were pushing them really hard, but it was going to take a miracle for us to have, you know, to not go 0-7 in preseason, which we did. And we still had to, you know, tell them, hey, like we're just that much more prepared for league. Like we got this. Okay. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's so true too. I mean, cause I know as a player and as a coach, I coach, you know, basketball, football, baseball, and the majority of athletes I feel, and I'm not sure, you know, if you agree with this, but the majority of athletes, it's like they might not tell you, but they crave that structure. You know, they want that, especially the ones, I mean, who are there and they want to be there. Like, because I've been on teams. I remember like when I was like in 8th grade, 7th grade, I was in a rec league, basketball league, and you could tell our head coach, I think he was probably doing some community service hours where he did not want to be there. And he kind of just showed up late. One of the parents was pretty much coaching us for practices, and the head coach would show up at halftime during games, so, and like, I'm there, like, I'm, because you and I have the very, very similar mentality. I want to compete. Like, I want to, if I'm going hard. And so I'm there, with my other buddies who actually cared. And we were like, "What's up?" And so, but then when we got a coach, it was like, "Okay, let's go." So I love that, and so I really feel that kind of played a role, and you could talk about it more, but played a role in what you were able to do in that time that you were there, because you pretty much you went in, from what it sounds like, with the expectation that, hey, like, this is what you have, good luck, kind of like get a couple wins, like, have fun, right? But I'm right with you, because I would have done the same thing. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm going hard. I'm here to succeed. I don't care what they did last year or 10 years ago, So, like, what do you feel contributed to your success and your team's success, during that 1 year?
Yeah. Well, just to quickly go back on what you said about athletes desiring that structure, I 100% agree. They want discipline, they want structure. And a lot of coaches, for some reason, they have a problem with using the word rules. Like, oh yeah, we don't have rules on our team.
Sure.
Okay. Do you have expectations of your players? Yeah. Okay. Then you have rules. Maybe you don't like using the word rules, but if you have expectations, you have those standards. That's structure, that's discipline. And I think that that's just something that I desire too. I like routine, I like discipline, I like structure. It's very common in athletes.
Yeah.
I think the reason why we were as successful as we were was a lot of reasons, but one in particular that I can think of is, I coached them like they were a championship team. Before I even saw them really play, I coached them like they were Vanguard University. I coached them like I thought a championship team should be coached. Now, does that mean that I was telling them, oh, you guys, we're going to win CIF. We are going to, we're going to be the number one? No, I didn't say that. I just coached them like they were. I didn't allow them to. I had players that were telling me that they sucked, that they played JV last year. They didn't know how to dribble. Okay. Like, first of all, you don't suck. You're on varsity. You're here now, and you're not on JV.
Sure.
And if you can't dribble, let's work on it right now. If you don't have a left hand, let's work on it. None of the Costa Mesa High School girls knew what a left hand was. And we have two of them on our team right now. We have Amy and KDB, and they'll tell you we did left-handed layups to the death of me, literally from the time we were just got started first day to the time we were preparing for a CIF quarterfinal match. If you didn't shoot that ball with your left hand on the left side, we had problems. I mean, their left hands, they exist now. Like Amy Martinez has a left hand, and before she's like, left hand? Like, I've never had a coach make me shoot with my left hand. Yeah, well, that's
like
a problem.
Shaq over here, like,
yeah. So I mean, that's the thing, is I just didn't let them think what they had previously thought of themselves. Like, no, you guys aren't a crappy team. I don't care if everyone on campus is telling you guys that you're the laughing stock of, the team, or that your athletic director thinks that you can't win a game, or that you sucked last year, or you feel like you suck. I'm here to show you that that's not true, and that we can overcome this. And I think that they bought into that. And, I also I had some talented players for sure, and a really good assistant who kind of, is different from me, and she was a great balance. So it was just really it was a good mix of things.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I love that kind of story, because it goes to show how, we've heard stories from athletes too, from players, how they might have had a coach before tell them that they're no good, or tell them, just always hard on them, never anything positive or constructive. And then the benefit, like, yeah, it's unfortunate they went through that, but it's kind of fortunate in a sense to where it makes those kind of players, because I was one of those players at one time, it makes them appreciate the coaches that are supportive, the coaches that are, they're motivated to help them succeed, rather than hear their own voice, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why I truly love that kind of stuff. So going from Costa Mesa talk to me about the time period from going from there to OCC, because that was a pretty quick turnaround, right?
Yeah. Before I got hired at Costa Mesa, I actually applied for the OCC job. It was part-time at the time. Coach Thornton had just retired, and I was at Hope, and OCC had opened up, and I had a great relationship with Coach Thornton. It was a job that I really wanted. I wanted to be at OCC because I knew what being at OCC meant. I wanted to be at the junior college level because I like sleeping on my own pillow at night, and just I felt like I could do a lot more there for the athletes than I could at like a Division I, Division II kind of gig. So I went after the OCC job, and I also went after the Costa Mesa job. And because, I wasn't 100% confident that I was going to get the OCC job. And Costa Mesa offered me the job when I was in the middle of going through the interview process for OCC, and they were really, really great. And they waited for me. I said, can you guys wait? I really want this OCC job. I use different wordage, of course, but
Sure.
will you wait for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they did. And I told them, hey, I didn't get the OCC job. I'm all yours. And, when I was at Costa Mesa High School, I had my feet on the ground. I was in the present, but I also knew that I was not going to be at Costa Mesa High School forever. I knew that my goals were to move on. I didn't know if that was going to be in 1 year. I didn't know if that was going to be in 5 years. It was my goal though. And, we had the year that we had, the OCC job opened up again. I actually applied for the wrong position. So I applied for the part-time position, which I don't know why it was on the website still, but it was. So it actually opened up again, and I didn't even get an interview or a call or anything. And they ended up offering it to someone who didn't take it. So they opened it up again for a third time. This time I wasn't such a knucklehead, and I paid more attention to detail, and I applied to the full-time. And, I interviewed, and yeah, here we are. So, and I would, when I was at Costa Mesa High School and we had, started the league 5-0, I remember emailing the athletic director at OCC, like, hey, just wanted to check in. Like, this is what we're doing at Costa Mesa High School right across the street. I hope everything is going well over there. Just to kind of say like, hey, like I'm still really want to have a relationship. I still hope that one day you can look back on what I did over here, and maybe we can, reapply and reassess. And did I know it was going to be, 6 months later? No, but it was. And I'm so glad that it was.
That's awesome. And that is such a crazy story, how everything just kind of transpired the way it did.
Yeah.
So like now coming from Costa Mesa, now you're at OCC. I've been with you for the, going on second season now, but talk about your experiences so far from getting the job till now, and some of the challenges that that maybe you've been through as a head coach.
Yeah, that's a great question that has just so many things that I can think of to answer.
Sure.
But I'll start it off with that first day really of that summer basketball class, and really even before it had started, just kind of, I wouldn't say panic mode, but in this mode of, okay, my summer basketball class starts a week and a half after I'm officially hired. So I'm like officially allowed to communicate with athletes and say, hey, come join OCC. We ended up, I think, having 15 though in our summer class, but it was, it was a group of girls that were, yeah, sure, I'll try basketball. I haven't played in like 4 years. That sounds cool. A new coach wants me to play college basketball. This is awesome.
Oh, I love the Lakers. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, this seems doable. So I walked in my first summer basketball class, and I'm pumped. Like, oh yeah, I'm a new head coach of a college team. Like, sure. Let's go. I can't wait. Like, oh, you haven't played in 4 years. Like, that's fine. Like, I could make you better. I'll get the kinks out. And I just remember like looking at that group, and I'm like, oh, wow, my Costa Mesa high school team could literally like run circles around these girls. Not everyone, but for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, we had someone who was in her 40s and she hadn't played basketball in probably 20 years, wasn't in the greatest shape. And I just remember thinking like, this is college basketball. Like, all right, this is what I signed up for. So that was the first challenge, was like, I knew too, I was like, there's no way all these goals are going to last.
Sure.
Within the first 3 days, there's like, oh, I have work. Oh, I have this. Oh, I mean, we were practicing at 6 a.m. too. That was like the only time that we could go. And, the first day we had 15, the second day we had 10, the third day we had 3. There was a couple of days where we had 2 or 1, and it was like, I can't do anything about it. There really isn't like my team yet. I think, gosh, we ended up having one of those kids, one player from the summer class. That would be Leah, who's a standout now. But yeah, I mean, I hope I'm not her. I don't think I am. I think it's just her. Yeah. So, and then, just when we started in the fall, just I was really kind of like what I was doing at Costa Mesa High School. I was like, this is who I am. This is what I expect. And we still kind of had some of those players that were OCC was their last shot, like they played varsity basketball and they were like, huh, okay, like I'll give it a shot. This coach wants me, maybe I can move on. And, some of them realized this coach is too serious. She wants me to practice 5 days a week. She wants me to be on time to everything. Like, what? I can't do that. So we had some people fall off. We had some people that forcefully fell off because they were making poor decisions. And I just remember we had one of our players come up to me and say, hey, is it okay if I take a month off to go home? And I was like, no, it's not okay. And this is back when we had 9,
Sure. Yeah.
And she's like, well, look, here's the thing. My mom says that I come home for a month or I quit. Okay. You can go home for a month.
Yeah.
You can go home. We'll be okay with, 8.
Yeah.
And then, injuries and people quitting and okay, cool. So now we're down to 6, not to mention we have one player who's going to take off for a month. So it was a challenging experience of praying and hoping and yeah. And, practicing with 5 players, like doing 2-on-2 and never running an offense against any defense. And it was hard, but these girls, man, they came back every day ready to go. They stayed motivated. It was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and that showed a lot of character, for them, the ones who stuck around, the ones who stuck it out amidst so much adversity throughout the whole season. I mean, we were literally talking about writing a book. Like you can't make this shit up. I mean, and just like but we got through it. We got through it as a team, and amidst all that adversity that we face, it was definitely a memory that I know I will never forget, for better or for worse, because there are a lot of good memories, a lot of good things that happened. Even though we did have all that stuff you talked about. Mm-hmm. So heading into season 2, talk to me about that. How are you feeling?
Gosh,
no, we're in a weird situation right now. I know it's just like, I hear it, but now that season 1 is done, we have a bigger team, right? So talk to me about that. How you feeling about everything going on?
Well, first of all, I am so excited we have 21 players, like you said, a big team, and it's really awesome to me. Like, I'm so grateful for those girls that decided to come play for us. I think even though we had as much time as anybody else to recruit for this upcoming year, I mean, we were trying to recruit kids to come to a school when the year before us, they were 2-22. And I have kids on their recruiting visit with me and they're like, when's your next game? Oh, we're actually supposed to be playing in 2 hours, but we had to cancel because I have 4 players, and they decided for some reason, we'll go play for that coach. She seems like she knows what she's doing. but no, in all seriousness, I'm so excited. I'm so like motivated, I mean, we've got everything planned out, or we're ready to plan our practice. We have them doing study hall. We have just so many things. We've already ordered uniforms and gear literally months ago, just ready to get things going, ready to play some 5-on-5 and 5-on-5 on 5-on-5 and have really high intense practices. And I can't wait for that. But right now we can't do that. And so this is one of those years where we always say, it's not about basketball. It's not about basketball. And it's cliche to say it, but we haven't played basketball since February. So from February to now, it really hasn't been about basketball. It's been about, us. We read a book as a team. We do our workouts together. And yeah, that's about staying in shape, but it's also about us connecting. I mean, we have 21 players that have never met each other. I mean, literally never met. And it's been crucial for us to keep them on a consistent schedule of you're getting on Zoom Monday through Friday. I don't care if that school goes on Zoom twice a week. That school has had the same coach for 20 years, and they've got their routines and everything in place. And they've got returners who, not just 2 returners, but, 7 returners. And they just have they're well-oiled machines, whereas we're trying to put the machine together. We've got them doing mental trainings with you, once a week. And all that stuff is so crucial, and it's so beyond basketball, even though we do have them do that stuff on their own too. But I just think that this year has been really, really eye-opening to myself, and really, I'm sure to most coaches, that if you think that all you're doing is coaching basketball, then what the heck have you been doing for the past, 9 months?
Sure. Yeah, and for those who are watching this, and they're not in the world of coaching or sports or as an athlete, a lot of people are wondering, like, because I've been asked, like, hey, how's it looking as far as your team? Are you guys able to practice? I get that question a lot. I'm sure you are too, and it's tough, right? But just like how us coaches told the team is that we're going to control what we can't control. And so many teams, we're in the same boat. I know, it's a kind of sticky situation right now, but for the past, several months, everyone, no one could practice, and so instead of focusing on what we cannot do, I think we did a great job as a team of saying, okay, well, we can't be together on the court. We can't be on campus. We can't do all that stuff. What can we do? And I really feel that we've taken advantage and using, what we had to the best, of our abilities, and that's meaning on Zoom, having the workouts on Zoom, having them do their own workouts, doing the mental training, and, reading the book. And I really feel that, during this time, although we couldn't be together in person, I really feel that we've come together as a team. And this goes to show how a lot of other teams can do the same. It can look at the situation, the crappy situation that so many people find themselves in, and say, okay, well, we can't do that. Let's do this. And and I know you and I both, and I know our team and other coaches are just like anxious and ready to go, because, and that's what I tell the team. We gotta stay sharp and be ready, because you never know when they're gonna give us the thumbs up, the green light, say, let's go back.
Yeah, absolutely. And even our staff, I feel like, has gotten, my dog's kicking me, has gotten so much closer, because of this time. Our staff, our team, and yeah, I mean, it's just gonna make when we see each other for our first day in the gym that much sweeter. I really, really think so. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. So, and I really feel it, like the mental game is, especially, I mean, obviously I'm big on the mental game, but I just feel it's so much more important now, especially during this whole quarantine situation where you can't really work with the team on like the fundamental skills. And you obviously can do one individual work, but and I've done work with pro athletes, college, high school, and all the way down. And all of them that I talk to, I tell them, like, listen, control what you can control. What can focus on what you can do. I know you can't go on the field, you can't go on the court, you can't go on the ice, but what can you do, right? Um, so regarding the mental game, and as you mentioned, we do mental training with the team. How do you feel, looking back as an athlete and now as a coach? How do you feel um, the mental game, can impact, the performance of athletes and even coaches, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I had coaches growing up who would play what we would call mind games. Like I said, you're starting this game, yanking you the next game, you're going to play a lot and then not playing you at all, like that kind of stuff. And that affected my mentality. Nothing to do with my skill, or maybe that's why I wasn't playing, whatever, but in my mind, like, it affected my mentality, affected my confidence. And any player knows that if you think that you're going to miss a shot, you think that you're going to turn the ball over, you think that you suck, like, you're going to show yourself that you're right. Like, yeah, you're going to miss the next shot because you think you can't make it. Why would it be going in? There's so many like little nerve endings that go to your fingers when you're shooting your free throw, and it affects your shot, everything. And I just remember that because this doesn't all just come from me, right? I'm not that mentally tough to where I can just shut it off and be like, okay, no, I'm super confident. My coach is wrong. Like, he's playing mind games for his own. He's got something going on with him. I had a really, really awesome trainer who would train me for free, literally at any time of day, anytime he could get us in a gym. And he was the one guy in my life, one coach who was telling me, like, you can do this. Like, why are you only practicing post moves? Well, because I'm a post player. Mm-hmm. No, you're not. You are a guard. You're 5'9". You're a guard. You need to start shooting. He's the guy who started to tell me to shoot, outside, not just practice post moves. I wore number 21 because Tim Duncan was my favorite player, because everybody growing up told me I was a post, except for him. He would ask me, where do you want to go to school? I don't know. Maybe like Tennessee. Okay, yeah, you can go to Tennessee. We just, we got to get you thinking you can go to Tennessee. Did I go to Tennessee? No, but I still went to go play college, and without him, I feel like I wouldn't have been able to do that. And he changed my mentality. So I needed him to help change my mentality. I think it does need to come, especially when you're, 13, 14, 15, 16, and even in college. You need someone to believe in you. It can't always just be yourself. Mm-hmm. And if it is, that's great. But when I got to college, I didn't have him so much anymore. So I was still kind of trying to battle this inner confidence. And I had an assistant coach who recommended that I read the book Mind Gym. And that book changed my life. I mean, I read this book after my freshman season, at Vanguard, I read Mind Gym, and I kid you not, like, going into my sophomore year, I was working out. I was waking up at 4 a.m. and I was going to work out. And then I would go work a part-time job. And then I would go play pickup. And it's all because I read this book, Mind Gym, that basically is a book about, like, you can, if you want to, it's all in your mind. Like, it's all mental, right? It's all mental. And I thought that was huge. And to this day, I always tell my players, it's probably becoming redundant at this point, but I always tell them, before I would play a game, a big game, I would, during our quiet time, watch Kobe Bryant misses. And I'd sit there and watch, 3, 4, 5 minutes of the greatest player of all time missing, not one shot in that highlight clip was he making. And that was huge for me. And that's all part of, like, this mental process. It's all the mentality, that part of the game. And I think it's crucial, especially when we're dealing with women. Women have for whatever reason, we just lack confidence. And then when you throw sports into play, we don't want to let people down. We don't want to let our teammates down. We don't want to let our coaches down. You don't see that as much, I feel like, with men. Men have confidence issues, sure, but it's more about, like, me mentality. They all think they're going to the league, and that's fine. But If they miss a shot, it's not about their team. It's about, well, there goes my chances of going to the league. We don't think like that. So I think, we just have to be a little bit more sensitive when we're talking about coaching young women, and really making sure that we're not affecting their confidence, which, when you're in a position where your job is to push someone and to critique someone, you can easily do.
Yeah.
But it's just that balance of, building them up and critiquing them, and building them up and critiquing them. So, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good points. A lot of good points there. And especially, and that's one thing that I've learned as a coach too is, I've coached male and female sports or teams, and I noticed that there are individual athletes who you can give some more tough love, and you can get a little bit loud with them, and they'll push them, right? And then there are some that you got to really just talk to, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you get loud with them, they're gonna, they shut down. And because and that was a big challenge for me when I first started coaching, because the way I was coached growing up was the old school, in your face, yelling, screaming, that kind of stuff. And so that's all I knew. And so that's how I mimicked my coaching style for a few years until, until I kind of realized, and I had, one of my colleagues, Andrew Lopick over at Central High School, when I coached with him at high school football, he told me a couple of times, like, hey, that's probably not going to work the best, for some of these guys, that they'll shut down. And I started to realize over time that, hey, like that's true, because, and I remember as a player too, it kind of reminded me that, although the majority of my coaches were those hard-nosed ones, I remember like one that stuck out because, he was tough, but it was like you could tell that he cared, and he built us up, like you said, and that definitely impacts the mental game, right? And that's why it's coaches, the role of the coach is just so vital, and how I love coaches like you who can appreciate the mental game. And although a lot of coaches, they'll acknowledge, oh yeah, mental game is nice and it's important. A lot, especially the old school coaches, they don't pay any mind to it. They'll say, visualize the attack. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Like, talk to that. What do you want them to visualize? So, and that's why I'm noticing a lot of the up and coming coaches they tend to be more open minded, and because I've dealt with a lot of players and athletes at all levels, and coaches, and some athletes and coaches were open to working on their mental game and working with me. Some of them not so much. I've had coaches, the pro leagues, tell me, no, like, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I'm here in the NFL, I'm doing fine. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I had an athlete tell me one time, listen, I appreciate what you've done and what you're doing, and I know the mental game is important, but my bank account says that I'm doing just fine without you. So I'm like, holy shit, guy. Okay, a simple no would have sufficed, but okay, you're not gonna be a dick about it, but but it's true, it's true, and this kind of is a testament, and I don't know if you've seen this, but to the growth of how I'm seeing even more elite athletes talking about the mental game, mental health, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, like, I know that UCLA has a mental coach on staff. I know that's very common for a lot of professional athletes to have their own mental coach. And, what do you think separated Kobe Bryant from everybody else, or LeBron James from everybody else? Is it because they could do things that no one else in the NBA could? No. There's a lot of guys in the NBA who have footwork like Kobe, or who can shoot like LeBron, or like Kobe, not LeBron. But it's because he thought he was the greatest. He believed that he was the best. And granted, his work ethic helped get him to that level and that confidence, because I do believe that a lot is where it stems from, is your work. But that's what separated him, his mentality. That's what separates LeBron James. He walks into a gym and he's like, these guys can't guard me. I'm bigger than everybody else at my position. So That's why I think it is so crucial. And, we talked a lot about how coaches are so important when it comes to instilling that confidence and the whole idea of like building your players up and then criticizing them. You can't do that unless you have a relationship with your player. I can't get on a player that I have never talked to about anything besides basketball. If I don't know what's going on in your life or what your major is or what you did last week or why you're in a bad mood today, if I don't know those things, I cannot get on you. You're not going to respect me or you're not going to trust me. It's going to be, oh, coach is getting on me instead of, yeah, okay. Like, wow. Like,
Yeah.
Coach is getting on me. Like, I should probably change. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you got to have a relationship, and coaches just think that you can just yell at players, and you can't.
Absolutely. And like that, even like coaches, like, when I used to have assistants, when I coached football and they ran the defense, I used to tell them that same thing what you just said. Like, listen, you gotta build rapport with these players, and that's fine. If you want to show them some tough love, okay, but they have to know, and I still do this to this day when I work with my athletes. I tell them, listen, there are times that I might have to show you some tough love. There are times where I might have to get on you a little bit and get you going, but understand one thing, that it comes out of love. It comes out of me having this immense passion to help you get better, to help you achieve your goals. And so, by showing athletes, and not only telling them, but showing them, such as, and I do the same thing. Before practice, I'll go and talk to the girls. Hey, how's it going? How are your classes going? Getting to know them, right? And I'm not just doing that just to do it. No, I actually care. I actually care about what's going on, with their life outside of basketball. And so once you have that rapport, very much like you said, and you have that trust, because that trust is key. Without that trust, if the athletes don't trust you, good luck.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much that as a coach you can do if you don't have that trust and rapport with your athletes.
Oh, totally. And like, to get that rapport, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Like going up to them and saying, hey, what's going on? How was your day? And how are your classes? That's not enough, right? You got to keep doing it. And because we have kids that are like, good. Yeah. Yeah. I'm ready to practice. Like, no, like it's an effort. It's a constant effort. I sit on Zooms with our players in individual meetings, and literally sometimes it's like crickets, like, all right, so, like, let's pull some teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's true, and and that's what I love when I have former athletes of mine come back to me and say, hey, coach, I appreciate what you did for me. I had a couple of them that they were knuckleheads back then. They always give me a hard time, and they come back and they say, I know I'm sorry I was a hard ass. I'm sorry I gave you such a bad time, but I appreciate you always sticking with me, never giving up on me. Like,
That's
as
awesome.
a coach, and even as a teacher, as a professor, having those players or students come back, that's what gets me going. Like, that goes into my why, right? And that's why I love coaching, because it's that when you can make the impact, and that's why how you mentioned you want to make that impact at the JUCO level. I think you can attest to that as well, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I know there are people on here who are coaches, who are listening, who are coaches, or maybe potentially could see a future in coaching for themselves, and kind of be where you are or where your colleagues are. What would you say to them if they wanted to, if someone's watching this right now and they're thinking about getting into coaching? What would you say to them of how to get to either coach at high school, college, or beyond?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's a complex answer because there's a lot of things, but I think number one, most importantly, is you have to build connections beyond surface level. It's so much more than just shaking hands and moving on to the next coach that's in your path. Like, get to know them, and you never know what that relationship is going to lead to. Maybe it just leads to friendship. Maybe it leads to, hey, can I come watch your practice? Maybe it leads to a job, whatever the case may be. But it's got to be beyond surface level. You have to connect, make connections with people. So don't be afraid to do that. And then, you know, you have to be willing to move or I'm sorry, not move. For some people, you have to be willing to move. For most people, you have to be willing to work for free or for little to nothing. You know, at some point in our life in this profession, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, whatever the case may be, you're going to have to work for free or for, you know, much less than what you're worth. You're going to do full-time work and get paid part-time or get paid, you know, little to nothing. And that's got to be okay with you to an extent because it's part of the mud, as we like to call it. And then also, you know, most importantly, I think you have to bet on yourself. You have to believe that you can go after that Division I job that you're seeking or that high school varsity job that you're seeking. You have to believe in yourself and you have to convince everybody in the room that you have some credibility for sitting at that, you know, sitting in front of that panel, that you believe that you can get the job done. And I think that that'll really, really help.
Yeah. And that's true. It's just so many times where people, you know, they know what they want, but they don't know how to get there. And especially, and I can't emphasize the part where you said building those relationships, right? Building those connections, and that's when people ask me like for advice on career advice. That's like one of the number one things I tell them: build relationships in the field that you want to work in. But coaching, especially, like there's so many, you know, teams and you know from the pro all the way down, pro level all the way down. But sports, the coaching, especially in basketball, it's such a small world. Like people, coaches know each other, you know, and especially at the college level and especially when you're talking about like JUCO and D1 and D2 and so forth. But you know, all it takes is you talking to someone. Oh, like, hey, we have an opening. We're looking for an assistant, and that's where it starts, right? Because a lot of times, some of these positions, you're not going to see them on like Indeed or LinkedIn, right? You know, someone's
Oh,
word
yeah.
of mouth.
Or if you do see the position, like if for some reason it is on Indeed, then it's already taken.
Sure.
It's already taken by whoever, you know, told so-and-so to go after it. It's just on there because legally it has to be on there, you know?
Yeah.
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 Or whatever the case. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. Almost every job is from a connection. Either it's a minor connection, like you never met anybody in the room before, but you connected with somebody with what you said, or
Yeah.
it's because somebody, like you said, hey, this job's open, you should go after it. Well,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen if you don't have a connection. So yeah, absolutely. So perfect.
Love it.
Crucial.
Yeah. So when Coach Sammy is not Coach Sammy, when she's just Sammy, what does she like to do? What do you like to do when you're not coaching?
Geez, are we talking pre-COVID-19 or right now?
In general, yeah. We'll just pretend. Yeah, we'll say pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID. Well, I love my Peloton. Okay, I think that
Nice.
is the greatest, I like to say, investment because I'm investing in my health, right?
Absolutely. Peloton
Love
fan,
the
baby. Shout
Peloton.
out. Let's go.
Yes, yes. Love that. I also quite enjoy mountain biking from time to time. Going out to eat. I'm a foodie, you know, I love like date nights and happy hours and things like that, and just having good conversation and like hiking, swimming, like that's really what I like to do. And then of course, you know, podcast and read and stuff like that.
Nice. So, like, you like those podcasts, like to read. So, what are some recommendations? You have some for us?
Yeah. So, you know, I kind of touched on Mind Gym. I think
That's an
that is
awesome book. Oh, I can't.
yeah.
That's like I'm sorry to cut you off, but before you move on, I just want to hit the point because when I get someone asking me for a good quick sports psych book and mental game book, I always give them that one because it's a quick, easy read, but it's so powerful. It's so informative, and so many people like yourself can attest to that. You know, so go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, just like you said, it's a great book. It's basically that whole idea of, you know, I think Henry Ford said it. whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you're right. And
Mhm.
that's basically what that book is saying. If you think you can, will yourself to do it, and you will, you know? So I love that book. And one of my all-time favorites that I recommend to anybody who is looking to be a coach or be a leader of something is the book called Lead for God's Sake. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, basically it's about a coach who, you know, he's the old school style of coach that we've been talking about, and he doesn't understand why, you know, his team isn't producing, and he develops a relationship with the school janitor who he never looked at anything other than just the janitor, but he ends up being this guy who just got a lot of wisdom and kind of helps him change his way of thinking and makes him an excellent leader. And it's just a great book. Podcast, you know, just a little plug here, Coaching Mud. That one, you know, that one's a good one. I actually sometimes find myself having to listen to episodes even though I'm on them with my guests, because sometimes I get a little like, I'm looking at what I need to ask next, or, you know, trying to find a good time of where to make the split. So sometimes I'm like, man, I need to re-listen to that one. So that one's a good one. I like Baskipedia. I like 11 Rings. That's not a podcast. That's a book. Love Phil Jackson. He is amazing. If I could get him on Coaching Mud, anybody who listens to this knows him. Tell him to find me. And Beyond Basketball by Coach K. I'm not even going to try to butcher his last name. But Coach K from Duke. Great book.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know she kind of briefly threw it in there, but yeah. So Coach Sammy has her own podcast called Coaching Mud. You can find it on Spotify and I believe Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
So check it out, especially, you know, if you are a basketball coach watching this. Great talks with different coaches at different levels. You'll find yours truly on one of them. So yeah, definitely a lot of good information. So, well, Coach Sammy, it's been a pleasure. You know, I know you definitely brought the value, you brought the fire today, and I appreciate you being on. So if someone wanted to get a hold of you or find you to ask any questions or anything, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you could find me on Twitter, and that's just Coach Sammy D, and it's going to be SAMMY.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Coach Sammy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Coach Sammy Doucette of Orange Coast College Women's Basketball. Again, I appreciate you being on, and definitely been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Coach Danny. You know, I love any platform to just be able to talk hoops and mentality and things like that. So I really appreciate you thinking of me and asking me to join you on this.
Absolutely. And, you know, it was a pleasure having you as my first guest on our first video show. It's exciting times. So if you like what you've seen so far, we're going to continue the ball rolling. So subscribe below, tell your friends, tell your girlfriend, tell your boyfriend. We're going to have a lot of fun on this show. Okay, subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one, all right? Be safe, be easy, everyone. We'll see you.